Welcome to your ghostly Advent calendar, courtesy of the Theatre of the Mind. Door 1, your ghost story this evening, The Lantern in Cold Harbour Lane. So sit still for a moment, because this story comes from a real police log. A place that's now been built over, levelled, sanitised, forgotten. But the winter doesn't forget, and neither did the people who saw it. Cold Harbour Lane was one of those old country stretches at the edge of a forgotten English town. Too narrow for 2 cars, too quiet for comfort, and too old for anyone to agree who first named it. In December 1974, the police received 9 separate reports about the same thing. People driving home from late shifts, nurses, pub workers, a lorry driver, each saying they'd seen a lantern swaying in the darkness at the side of the road. Not a torch, not a headlamp, a lantern. Brass, Victorian, glowing with a thin, unnatural yellow light. At first, the officers assumed it was a prank, someone dressed up, maybe a drunk stumbling home, until the 10th call. And the caller was a police constable on his way back home from duty. The constable said the lantern wasn't being held. It was just hanging in mid-air, as if suspended from nothing, slowly swaying, even though the hedgerows were perfectly still. The constable pulled over. He thought someone might be hurt. He stepped out of his car, and the lantern drifted across the lane and then stopped, as if noticing him. He walked towards it. 50 feet, 40, 30, and then the air changed. He described it later as like stepping into an old photograph where the colours don't behave properly. The sound of distant traffic disappeared. The cold became sharp, metallic. He heard footsteps behind him, slow, crunching frost. He turned. Nothing. When he turned back, the lantern had moved. Behind it now was the outline of a man, tall, thin, wearing what looked like an old railway coat. But the face? The face was blurred, as if smudged out by someone who didn't want the memory to stick. The constable called out, "Sir, are you all right? Do you need any help?" The figure lifted the lantern higher, not toward the constable, but toward the hedgerow, as if pointing. The officer later said he felt not fear, but a command, a silent instruction to look. The constable stepped toward the hedge. The lantern's glow brightened, and there, half covered by snow and bramble, he saw the iron rail from the old line, the one that had been shut since the 1930s, after a train derailed in a winter storm. He stepped closer and found a rusted signalman's badge still lying where it had fallen 50 years earlier. And when he turned to show the lantern bearer, the figure was gone. The lantern was gone. The sound of modern life rushed back in like a tide. The constable reported everything. It went into the logbook. The next day, council workers clearing the lane discovered remains. The bones of a man crushed decades earlier when the signalling booth collapsed during the derailment. His name had been lost to local memory, unremarked, unmarked. But at Christmas, the story says, he walked Cold Harbour Lane again, holding his lantern. Not to haunt the living, but to make sure someone finally found him. And as the police constable later said, he wasn't frightening, he was determined. A man who'd waited long enough to be seen. Since 1974, there have been 3 more reports, always in December, always at dusk, always on nights when the wind refuses to move. A swaying lantern, a silent figure, and a reminder that not every ghost returns for vengeance. Some come back simply because they were never found, until someone cared enough to look.